Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we're taking a look at something very cool and very small. This is the Razer Huntsman Mini 60% keyboard. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so in today's video we'll be taking a look at the rather small and rather cool Razer Huntsman Mini. This was very kindly sent over to us from one of our good friends of the channel, William Bodie. Thank you very much for sending this over to us. Yeah, I am kind of lost for words at this one. It's one of those things where 60% keyboards are something which are, for some people, they hate them, for some people they love them, and I guess it depends on what your needs are. Now, if you've got a particularly small desk, or perhaps you're one of those people with a low resolution mouse, or you have it at low DPI setting and you use a lot of space to swing your arm around with that mouse, then having a tiny keyboard is going to be extremely beneficial to you. For others that do rely on the arrow keys or the number pads, obviously you can get the larger version of this, the Razer Huntsman and the Razer Huntsman V2, should you be interested in that. But if you want to condense your desktop and make things look rather cool and very simplified and minimalistic, this is definitely the way to go. Now, as you can see already from the RGB lighting, obviously it has per key RGB lighting, and the highlight of this particular keyboard is the switches. Now, there's two versions of this available on the market with two different switches, one of which is Razer's own opto-mechanical red switch, which is what we've got in here, which is a linear switch, which has no tactical bump to it and is completely silent. Well, effectively silent. There's no moving parts in it as such. There is a beam of light which gets broken to actuate the keyboard and to send a signal to your computer and say, hey, you've been pressed. Along with which there is N key rollover and yeah, basically all those types of technologies. So you can basically smash all the keys at once and it will still register them. It's very cool in that regard. If you don't like a red linear switch and you want something a little bit more tactile with a bit of a bump to it and a little bit of a clacky sound, then Razer do also offer a purple switch as well, should you be interested in. Again, it is an optical switch, so it does have that beam of light which needs to be broken. So as you press the key down, it passes a beam of light, the beam of light gets broken, and the 1000 Hertz polling rate reports back to your computer and says, hey yo, I've been pressed, please move my character on the screen, which works exceptionally well. Now, this particular version, this is the black version. There's a couple of other colorways available as well. There is a white version, which they call Mercury, and also there is a bunch of different keycaps you can get for this as well. So if particularly you kind of into different themes or styles, there's a pink version of caps, there's a white version, black version, yeah, there's lots to choose from. And also, if you're really out there and you just love your Razer stuff, there's Razer luminous green versions as well, should you be interested. Anyway, so that's a very quick intro to what is going on here. We're going to go through what you get in the unboxing experience and obviously talk about the keyboard in more depth. So let's get straight into it. So looking at the box, as you can see straight away, this is the Razer Huntsman Mini, and some of the highlights on there, obviously this is a 60% keyboard, so no arrow keys, no number pad, and none of your delete keys, like sort of scroll up, scroll down, all that kind of stuff. So this is really tailored towards arguably right-handed gamers. Obviously, if you're left-handed, then you're probably going to want to use arrow keys, maybe, or perhaps you've moved over to the ASDW keys. Let me know in the comment section you have. I actually find it really difficult to use those, but they can be used should I need to. Anyway, so yeah, this is a very, very small keyboard. Takes up very little space, very compact, and actually surprisingly it is relatively lightweight considering all the technology that's in there. So we're looking somewhere around about the 450 grams mark. There is also a detachable USB Type-C cable as well, so if you want to add your own custom cables you certainly can do, or you can use the included one, it's not a problem at all. And with this, again, portability, a 60% keyboard, if you've got particularly large jeans you may even fit this in your back pocket. Probably not advisable in case you ever sit down and smash it to pieces. But a 60% keyboard is going to pretty easily fit into the back of most backpacks or travel bags very easily. So if you're going to a LAN gaming center or something like that and you want to take this along with you, then yeah, you definitely can do. So yes, we do have the Razer optical switches in there, as we said before. Durable PBT double shot caps as well. So the keycaps, they've been done extremely well. And to be honest with you, these are actually some of the best keycaps I've seen on a keyboard. Razer do some really, really nice keycaps. There's also an option for some pudding style ones as well, which they supply as an optional extra should you want to spend that sort of money. But as standard for a keyboard which is kind of just out of the box, straight out of the gate, the keycaps are amazing. They're also slightly thicker than some PBT keycaps, so there's a little bit of extra thickness there just to give it that bit of extra solid feel and rigidity. And it's got the really nice shine through lighting, so you can see your RGB lighting. The only thing is, obviously, because it is double shot, there's no legend on the top of the keys at all, so you can only ever see them if they're being illuminated. So really, you do need to have the illuminations on. If you turn the lights off, yeah, you're going to have to be going on some serious muscle memory. I'm thinking these are somewhere around the 40 grams mark of actuation force, because there isn't any kind of tactile dent or bump or anything, they are linear, so as soon as you break through that actual LED light or laser light, which is about 1.2 millimeters in travel from what I can tell. Yeah, so it is very quick, very accurate, and it's kind of almost intuitive, so that kind of the keyboard almost knows what you're going to press before you do almost. It's especially if you're playing games, muscle memory kicks in and you kind of almost go to press a button as if you're going to think about moving and you already realise you're moving already. So yeah, in that regard it is very quick and very fast and very quiet. On the back of the box, it's kind of more the same, so it goes through the detachable cable, double shot PBT caps as we've seen already, 60% form factor. Actually quite a handy little guide there as well, so if you want to know how to actually change the RGB light in, so say for instance you're a normal human being, you don't like installing tons and tons of apps and stuff on your devices, and you've already got way too much RGB stuff on your computer, or Steam, Epic, all those kinds of things running in the background, you don't want something else. So you can actually use this completely standalone, just by using the function control key. Also in the bottom corner there it mentions about the Razer Synapse 3 software, which you can use to do configurations and set up the software. In actual fact, you can get this to combine quite nicely with a lot of other systems on the market. So if you've got maybe an MSI motherboard like we have in the PC behind me, you can actually get it so that the Razer software will talk to the MSI software and then control all your lighting, which I tried earlier and it works very well. So you go into Razer, set up the Razer Connect, and then basically you can tell the keyboard lighting to also do things like your RGB RAM and also your lights in your PC and all that kind of good stuff. In fact, let's take a quick look at the software now. So as you can see in the software, there's loads and loads of options, and to be honest with you, there's way too much for me to go through in this video, so I won't. I'll just show you some of the things I've done on screen. But yeah, you've got all the usual things in there, so you can choose things like your fire display, different types of RGB lighting, go in, choose different components, configure how you want to. You can set up per key lighting, all those kinds of things. There's a ton of things you can do in this software. It's very flexible and actually works surprisingly good, although there is quite a steep learning curve in my opinion. So going back to the unboxing, obviously the keyboard itself, we'll take a closer look at that very shortly. Also included in the top here, there is a leaflet telling you all about your product and also thanking you for your purchase, all that kind of usual stuff. Lots of information there, should you want to have a read through that. And in this section at the bottom, we have our nice USB Type-C cable. So this is very typical from Razer. So anything which is USB generally, yep, it's got color coded. So we've got a USB Type-C connection there, color coded green. And on the other end of the cable, there is going to be a USB Type A, again, got the little green bit of color coding on there. Wouldn't be Razer without a little bit of green on it. And obviously it is a very nicely braided cable, a little bit of cable management there should you wish to use it. Something which is actually very cool of this, which I've noticed, which is one of those things which most people would completely overlook. And I've seen so many keyboards over the years that do not do this. So it's actually very nice to see it. So what they've done is actually the USB cable, there is some very, very slight slits actually in the cable itself. And if you look at where the actual cable goes, in here, there's a receiver for the cable. There's also some channels there. So what they've done is made it so that normally with a USB Type-C, when you plug it in, I can get it to go in there, so it locks in place nicely and actually very flush with the end. So the cable itself, even if there's a weight on it, it's not straining on that USB Type-C connection because it's kind of locked into those slats in the side. So there's no actual kind of lateral movement there, which is then going to make it so that your USB Type-C connection is going to be, well, it's going to last a lot longer in my opinion. Obviously with the keyboard, if the keyboard's been moved around and it's generally flexing, it's going to be putting strain on that connection. So the fact they've actually reinforced that USB Type-C connection, hats off to them. I think they've done a particularly good job. Obviously, if you're not going to be using this cable, you're going to be using one of your own custom cables, then that isn't going to be quite as good. So potentially that is an area where it could get damaged. Although saying that, it does seem to be housed quite nicely in there, so yeah, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. While we've actually got the keyboard out, let's take a closer look. So on the back, you've got feet there, which have got two individual steps. So you've got the standard layout, so rubber pads on there, which can hold it in place. So if you have it completely flat, it doesn't want to skate all over the desk, even though it is relatively lightweight. If you want to raise up the keyboard rake slightly, you can do it by either 6, I think it is, yes, 6 degrees. If you do it on the first set of legs, so that's going to give you 6 degrees of lift, so it's going to raise it up very slightly. If you need a little bit more, then you can fold up the other foot, and then that gives you 9 degrees, so it gives you a little bit of a steeper rake to the keyboard. Obviously, choose whichever you like. Some people like it completely flat. That is the beauty of having all those options available to you. Something else on the back as well, completely unnecessary, but very much Razer all over, is the fact that we've got all of this embossed for gamers, by gamers branding on there, which hopefully you can see. I'm looking in the monitored area, it looks like you can just about make that. I'll take some B-roll of it so you can see it a little bit clearer. But yeah, very cool indeed. It is a plastic base and obviously PVT keycaps. The actual deck itself is made from aluminium or aluminum, depending where in the world you actually are. It is secured to the actual frame with 13 screws, which is, I would say, overkill, but at the same time does give it so that there's virtually no flex to it at all. It is absolutely solid, it really is. I've had other 60% keys boards before, 65s and even kind of 75, 10 keyless, that sort of stuff. And some of the cheaper ones generally tend to have a little bit of flex to them, but this thing is absolutely solid. Potentially you could actually hammer nails in with this thing. So let's take a closer look at the keyboard itself. So as we said before, PBT double shot keycaps. These keycaps are awesome, they really are. They're not going to get shiny, which is a thing. Obviously chemical reaction, grease on your fingers, goes into plastics and generally kind of erodes it and takes away any of the kind of texture and then makes it look shiny. So if you've got an older keyboard, you'll know that because you look on certain angles, you can see exactly what keys you use the most. Space bars, all that kind of stuff, going to be shiny as all heck. PVC keycaps don't do that. They're designed specifically so that doesn't happen. Also the legend on them, because they are double shot, so effectively it's kind of 2 pieces of plastic put together. The top piece, obviously being the black bit, has a section cut out underneath, and then the other bit, which is illuminated, the white bit, is then got the kind of the legend or logos. It basically fills that space where the hole is so you can see what it is. So the legends will never ever rub off of this, so your fingers will wear out way before the actual legend does. So again, but that does rely on the fact of having backlighting, so you will need to have the lighting on in order to see these quite clearly. Although having said that, in this particular light, with the lights actually off, I can make out the legend quite clearly, which is actually a very good thing because this one is actually a German layout. William, who actually lives in Germany, sent this over. I think he found it on sale in his local Aldi or something, which is, I don't think we often get things like that in our Aldis over here, but anyway, I digress. So yeah, this was a German layout, which actually is a fantastic opportunity for me to try out something else which we've got up for review, which is going to be Razer's keycap replacement sets. They do a pudding style keycap set, which comes with basically every single key you could possibly imagine, standard bottom row, Razer bottom row, US and UK layout. So you've got your big enter button rather than being the slimline one, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to see what those are like, make sure you stay subscribed, hit the chime on notification to be notified of future videos, etc, etc. But we will be trying those out at some point. So yeah, that's going to be interesting because at the moment this is a QWERTY Z or QWERTZ. I'm not sure what the German layout is normally called, but yeah, it's not a UK one. Although weirdly, if you do plug this into a computer, this actually applies to pretty much most keyboards, I think. When I've plugged this into the Razer Synapse software, actually on screen it shows it as being the German layout. So there is something in here which makes it think, yes, I am a German keyboard, which kind of makes sense. Although, using it on my Windows setup, which says it's a UK keyboard, if I press the Z, it comes out as a Y. So it knows it's a QWERTY, or at least it wants to be a QWERTY keyboard, although the layout is different. So obviously things like your shift keys being remapped. So what I'm trying to say is, if you do like the look of this, and maybe you can find it cheaper in another country, all is not lost. You could potentially still buy it, plug it into your PC, and it'll work as your normal layout would. Just you're going to have to maybe think about changing over some of your keycaps. Talking of switching over keycaps, very easy to do. All you do is you can actually just literally pull them off, and this does reveal the absolutely super cool looking Razer switches. So these are their opto-mechanical switches. These are the version 2 now. So the original version of this actually came with effectively the same switches. So you have the choice of the red linear or the purple clicky. They've basically changed them. One of the comments that people had of the original version of this was the fact that the switches had a little bit of too much rattle to them and too much kind of movement, sideways, lateral and all that kind of stuff, so it didn't feel very stable. They've done a really simple thing to make them better, and essentially what they've added is 2 silicone strips which go down each side and just packs it out and kind of keeps it all in place, and they are so silent now, it is ridiculous. There's virtually no noise to them at all. Obviously that is without a cap on there, but... And what they've also done is to prevent the bottoming out, because it used to have this really horrible pinging noise. If you've had any of the cheap keyboards that have been on Amazon, eBay, etc. Actually, if you go back and watch one of our videos from the Havit keyboard we had ages ago, that thing pinged like a... Well, it just had a really bad ping to it. And you know what it's like? It's that reverb. You press the button, it's a ding, and it carries on for ages after. They've remedied that as well. And essentially by putting those silicone bits in, there is also kind of like a dampener in there as well. They've also said as well, which I've not found out because I haven't had the guts to take one of these switches apart yet, is that the switches and the springs are factory lubed. So basically they've done all the things that you would do with a custom keyboard, but they've done it for you out of the box. So you've got possibly some of the highest quality switches on the market, which are already pre-lubed, and is basically ready to go. So this is a custom keyboard, but in a retail package effectively. Anyway, so you can see the switch there, so it goes on that swivel, all very good, and the key sound itself is very nice. Not entirely uniform, but very close. And the only thing which is slightly annoying is the space bar. The stabilizer in the space bar has a little bit of a rattle to it. If you rattle the keyboard, you can definitely hear some of those. Could do a little bit of extra lube in. It's very easy to do. Take it apart, put some extra switch lube in there, and that gets rid of pretty much 80–90% of that rattle. So that's all well and good. But yeah, overall, very nice, very quiet. If you're in a room where there's other people typing away, if you compare this against any other red linear switch, this is hands down a lot quieter. And what do you think, Kath? It's a thumbs up from Kath, so that's a winner for me. So let's plug this thing in and take a closer look at some of the lighting. Now actually, just as I've plugged in my regular USB Type-C cable from the back of the computer, just as a thing, there is, you can see there is a little bit of movement there. It's not a lot, so the actual housing and the actual USB Type-C connection has been well soldered and is very, actually yeah, in a pretty decent way. But obviously it would be beneficial or better if you use the cable that Razer provide. So when it comes to lighting, yeah, it's pretty much the same as what you've seen on pretty much every single keyboard that's ever been made that has addressable RGB. It does work very nice. It is north lit, so if you take off the escape key again, we'll do that one. You can see it is lit at the top rather than being south lit. Some people prefer south, some people prefer north. If you're a typist or you're a gamer and you're predominantly working in a darker situation, you're definitely going to prefer north, because south lit ones do kind of give you that dazzle in the front of your eyes, whereas you can see from there, looking at the front on, there's kind of no dazzle whatsoever. Whereas if I flip this around, obviously with the south lit, it's brighter and it's going to be a little bit more dazzling, a little bit more distracting. Now obviously you can, if you want to, you can change all the levels of lighting. You can do all of that as well actually on the keyboard itself. So if you press function key and stirg, or in other words control, that is the German word for control apparently. So Alt Funk Stirg. I'm never going to get used to that, but new keycaps will fix that, don't worry. Yeah, all the buttons, you don't actually lose anything on this. Even though it's a 60% keyboard, effectively you don't lose anything. So if you press the function key, and I believe it is the IJKL, those are basically your arrow keys, but you would need to press the function key in order to do it. Same with the top row. So press the function key and all the top row become your function keys, F1 through to F12. So yeah, that's all there. You've also got break. It's actually in German, so it's difficult for me to work out. Druck, build, pos 1, endy. Endy must be end. I've got that so far. Pause is the same. Einfach, rollen. Yeah, You guys probably know what that is. Maybe it's even get autocorrect if you put on the subtitles. Anyway, I'm digressing. So yeah, in terms of key switches, they're phenomenal. The keycaps are amazing as well. The only thing I think which would distract from actually anyone buying this is purely the fact that it's a smaller keyboard. Some people prefer a large keyboard with a number pad, depending on what you're doing. If you're solely gaming and you are right-handed, you're using your WASD keys, yeah, this is going to be awesome. And the fact that you can choose all those different colorways, different keycap options, etc. from its own brand to keep it all in keeping, that is something actually which I should mention. If you do change the keycap colors, or you even use Razer's own PBT swap out kit with those put-in style caps, you are going to lose the additional printed sections on the front there, unless you go for either the black keyboard or the white keyboard, which has obviously got the those writings on. That's the same across the board. I don't think there's any other manufacturer which does swapped out keycaps which retain all that kind of stuff. So, but just thought I'd mention it. So if I went for kind of like a Panda setup on here, potentially you'd lose some of the writing. Anyway, overall, awesome keyboard. Spec-wise, you can check out all those specs from websites, all that kind of stuff. I'll put some links in the video description so you can check it out for yourselves. I'll try and put links for the UK, German, European, and all the other US style layouts of this. There might just be one Amazon link, but anyway, it should take you to your local region if you click on it regardless. So yeah, overall, very, very cool, very, very small, and arguably, I would say possibly the best polished version of a custom keyboard, but in a retail package that I've seen on the market so far. And it compares very, very well, if not arguably better, than the Ducky 1.3, which we reviewed a while back. So if you want to check that out, that's going to be linked up there as well, or down in the video description. That is actually more expensive. This at the moment can be picked up in the UK for somewhere in the region of about £70, which beats the Ducky by easily £30. So if you want to have shine-through caps where you can actually see the writing on them rather than the Ducky, which is solid, so you can't see what is on there, just a very subtle RGB, I think the Razer is a very simple choice. The only choice being is, do you go for the red? Do you go for the purple? Do you go for the black? Do you go for the white? Yeah, lots of options. Or do you go for the full-size version? Who knows? Anyway, I've waffled on for way too long. Let me know what you think about this one in the comment section below. Massive shout out again to William Bodie for sending this one over to us for review purposes. Much appreciated, sir. And that's going to wrap things up. I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.